Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight. We begin with the latest development in Turkiye and Syria. The death toll following a devastating earthquake to hit the two countries has rose past 5,000 this evening. Search and rescue teams are racing to find survivors trapped beneath the rubble after thousands of buildings collapsed. Efforts to reach survivors were also hampered by sub-freezing temperatures. A magnitude 7.8 earthquake hit early on Monday, toppling buildings, wrecking hospitals and leaving thousands of people injured or homeless in Turkish and Syrian cities. About 12 hours later, a second powerful tremor hit further north. As aftershocks continue, many of those in the disaster zone are reportedly too scared to go back into buildings. The World Health Organization has warned that death toll is likely to increase as much as 8 times as rescuers find more victims in the rubble. An international rescue effort is underway to bring support and aid to Turkey and Syria, including from Malaysia. The Special Malaysia Disaster Assistance and Rescue Team, SMART, of 70 people had arrived at Turkey around 6 a.m. this morning. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Sabah, Sarawak Affairs and Special Duties, Dato' Armizan Muhammad Ali, tells Astro AWANI the team is currently waiting instructions from the Turkish Crisis Command Center before being deployed to specific locations.
Saya telah berhubung dengan Komander SMART sedikit masa tadi, iaitu Tuan Muhammad Khairul bin Jamil selaku Chief de Mission kita. Beliau maklumkan mereka kini sedang mendapat taklimat daripada Command Center Kerajaan Turkiye untuk penempatan, sebab sebagaimana kita maklum Faris, bahawa gempa bumi ini berlaku bukan sekali dan kawasan yang terlibat, affected areas, sudah menjadi semakin luas, dan atas sebab itulah bahawa pasukan-pasukan daripada pelbagai negara yang membantu akan ditempatkan.
13 Malaysians are affected by the earthquake in the region. According to the Malaysian ambassador to Turkey, Sazali Mustafa Kamal, they are in safe condition, but they are still trapped in the disaster zone.
Kami mendapati mereka semua di dalam keadaan selamat dan sihat walafiat. Namun demikian, mereka masih berada di dalam kawasan bencana berkenaan, memandangkan kawasan tersebut tidak mudah untuk orang-orang awam memasuki, memandangkan usaha-usaha yang giat dijalankan oleh pasukan mencari dan menyelamat pihak Turki dan dari pelbagai negara. Pada masa kini juga keadaan di kawasan bencana juga masih meruncing.
The damage caused by the earthquake that struck parts of Turkey and Syria was so extensive that the World Health Organization warned that up to 23 million people are expected to be affected by the disaster. Seismologist Dr. Margareta Segor discusses the magnitude of the earthquake and what could happen next.
Now, in terms of energy release, it is to bring it in people's terms. The 7.8 corresponds to energy released by more than 20 billion kilos of explosives. And this is roughly more than 1,000 times stronger than the atomic bomb that devastated Hiroshima city. So it's pretty significant. And therefore, we have such extended damages around the region.
As the earthquake happened on fault lines between tectonic plates, she expects months of strong quakes above the magnitude of 6.5.
So here we have an extended aftershock zone of 500 kilometers, and we are looking for the months to come to experience strong shaking, at least from 20 earthquakes and above 6.5, meaning that we are just today starting to see the devastation and the loss of life.
The region sits on top of major fault lines and is frequently shaken by earthquakes. Some 18,000 were killed in similarly powerful earthquakes that hit northwest Turkey in 1999.
Over in the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has announced a mini cabinet reshuffle with Greg Hans named the new Conservative Party chairman. Hans replaces Nadhim Zahawi, who was sacked following revelations over his tax affairs last week. Sunak also split up 2 departments to unveil 4 new portfolios. This will see Grant Shapps as Energy Security and Net Zero Minister, Kemi Badenoch as the Business and Trade Minister, Michelle Donnellan as the Science, Innovation and Technology Minister, and Lucy Fraser taking over the new role for Culture, Media and Sport. The reshuffle comes as Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab faces pressure over bullying allegations, which he has denied. The creation of new portfolios also better suits Sunak's pledge to spur the economy and turn around his party's fortunes before an election expected next year. We will go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Magnum Belgian Chocolate Lux Baharu, Ice Cream Coklat Ungu, Coklat Belgium Tebal, dan cebisan biskut rangup.
Seems to be the ideal.
Magnum, kenikmatan sejati.
Cuaca panas menyebabkan kelemomor minyak dan kegatalan? Tewaskan kelemomor dengan Clear Ice Cool Menthol. Teknologi 3 kali ganda membersih kulit kepala secara mendalam. 3 kali lebih bersih. Tiada kelemomor, tiada minyak, tiada kegatalan. Clear terbukti menewaskan kelemomor.
Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim has named 5 individuals to be part of an advisory body to the Finance Minister. This body will be led by Petronas advisor Tan Sri Hassan Merican. The other members of this advisory body are Executive Chairperson of FVSB Datuk Ahmad Fuad Mat Ali, Sunway University's Economic Professor Dr. Yakim Leng, UM's Economic Professor, Eminent Professor Datuk Raja Rasia, and Chairperson of Sarawak Energy Berhad, Datuk Amar Abdul Hamid Sepawi. According to Anwar, members of this advisory board will not receive any form of payment from the government. Meanwhile, Anwar has arrived at the UMNO headquarters at Menara Dato' On in Kuala Lumpur this evening. It is a notable occasion as this is his first time in 25 years to enter the UMNO building since the Reformasi movement in 1998. The PKR president is scheduled to chair the Unity Government's first secretariat meeting at 8:30 p.m. UMNO Youth Chief Dato' Ashraf Washdi Dusuki, who chairs the secretariat, greeted the Premier. Also present are Deputy Prime Ministers Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof and Datuk Sri Ahmad Zaid Hamidi, who is also the UMNO President, as well as senior leaders from parties within the government. The Mass Rapid Transit Line Phase 2 MRT2 from Sungai Buloh to Putrajaya is expected to begin operations in mid-March. According to Transport Minister, the government had spent nearly 30.5 billion ringgit on the project. A specific launch date for the line, stretching 57.7 kilometers, will be fixed once trial runs and system fine-tuning are completed.
The first phase of the project was officially opened to the public on June 16, with a 17.5-kilometer line covering 12 stations from Kuasa Damansara to Kampung Batu. The completion of the second phase of the project will see an additional 24 stations opened, bringing it to a total of 36 stations from Putrajaya Central to Damansara Kuasa. He said 10 interchange stations will be located along the line, with the Titiwangsa station to be developed as a public transportation hub. According to Lok, a total of 107 feeder buses will serve the MR2 stations.
So as I mentioned, as I stressed over and over again, we must ensure that the passengers feel comfortable. And most important in any public transportation is reliability. Okay. We can build the best infrastructure and best system, but we, of course, right now we are focusing on reliability as well. That's why that's why not only about constructing a new project or new infrastructure, but maintaining it is equally important.
Lok said MRT2 will operate a total of 47 train sets and is expected to have a ridership of 200,000 passengers a day within a year or two of its launch. On the MRT3, Lok said the Finance Ministry is expected to approve the project soon.
The government is looking to revise and strengthen Malaysia's climate policies to further reduce the country's greenhouse gas emissions and combat climate change. Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Minister Nik Ahmad says his ministry intends to develop a nationally determined contributions roadmap and action plan to achieve the target of net zero carbon emissions by 2050.
Although Malaysia's contribution to the global greenhouse gas emissions is only 0.69%, the government is firmly committed to addressing and implementing climate actions to reduce the nation's carbon emissions.
Nik Nazmi said that his ministry will set up efforts to combat plastic pollution via the Malaysia Plastic Sustainability Roadmap 2021 to 2030. This includes engagement sessions with state governments on the implementation of pollution charges for single-use plastic, as well as the introduction of extended producer responsibility, which requires manufacturers to be responsible for enhancing product design and processes to prevent plastic waste from ending up in landfills or the environment.
IBM estimates that the global average cost of a data breach in 2022 has reached a record high of $4.35 million. Now, this highlights the importance of businesses to invest in effective cybersecurity measures. Farhana Sheh reports from IBM Security in Boston.
Fighting a cyber attack requires us to stay ahead of the game. How do we do that? Here at IBM Security, we are taught to think like a hacker. How do they plan an attack? How do they avoid being caught? Let's find out more.
One insight I definitely would want defenders to deeply understand is that the attacker is going to land, that compromise is going to happen, but that doesn't mean the inevitability of breach, that you can effectively defend what matters the most and be resilient in the face of that compromise and make sure that the things that your business runs on is not lost as a result of it.
I would add that anytime you're defending your organization, you're planning to defend your organization, you need to get outside of your own assumptions because you need to think about what can fail and what's going to fail instead of what is intended or what you hope is going to work. Because you have to practice the stuff you intend to function, but you also have to ask, where is this going to go wrong? And then practice responding to things that surprised you. Because in the heat of the moment when an actual incident's taking place, the difference between a major breach and a kind of daily report, to your management is whether or not you stayed cool, responded quickly, and got the situation back under control.
So I'd say first step is get an understanding of what the attackers can actually see and get rid of the blind spots and the misconfigurations and the process failures on that perimeter so that you're just simply not an easy target.
Yeah, smaller attack surface is always better, but honestly the first advice I give anybody is just understand what you're trying to defend and against kind of what level of adversary you're wanting to defend it, and know what matters to the business. If you can operate without the invoicing or billing system for a couple of days, then you should probably have a prepared plan for how to operate that component of your business without that component of the system supporting you. If you're in the business of providing healthcare, if you're in the business of moving oil or building cars, you should know what's the most critical components and which things you can operate without and for how long.
That concludes my trip here at IBM. I'm Farhana Sheh. Thank you for watching, and for more, head on to Astro AWANI.
That wraps up AWANI tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.